Hey everyone, first of all, kudos to you for clicking on that play button because this is a topic that's not for those faint of heart. I personally get a little queasy after having plants for over 10 years. It's a subject that I try not to think about it. And yeah, I'm talking about bugs. Unfortunately, pests are just part of being a plant parent. If you keep plants long enough, you're going to experience this issue. It doesn't mean you failed, it just means that it happens. So before we get started, I do want to mention that I'm more of a DIY person. I have cats. One likes to play in dirt. The other one likes to snack on spider plant leaves. And I'm very careful of what I use on these plants. I also have a vegetable garden. I don't want to have to be concerned about what I sprayed on something that I do plan to eat. I really believe that we already have things in our cabinets that can be used to combat these issues. Also, if I don't have something on hand, if I do have to go outside and buy something, I will go towards organic products. So this one is probably the gateway of bugs. Anyone who's ever had these would tell you this is like the rite of passage. The first sign you'll see is fine webbing. Now, unlike regular spiders, their webbing is bigger. You can see the cells almost like an artwork. And typically, you only see one spider per web. When it comes to spider mites, the webbing is much finer. And then you'll see all these little tiny dots moving. That one dot is a mite. And when you see all those little dots, it's because it's an infestation. Another clue is the leaves. The plant leaf tends to look pale and washed out, almost sickly, because unlike a regular spider that uses your plant as a base to catch the insects, the spider mites are actually feeding off your plant. So, as soon as I confirm the spider mites, I will inspect every plant nearby to ensure that I capture everything that's been infected and I take them to the sink. And I mix a simple solution of dish detergent and water. I know they say Dawn is preferable, but I've used anything that I have on hand. And then I spray the entire plant, especially the underside. Now I let it sit there for a few minutes with this, and after a while, I will rinse it with cold water. I have a sprayer on my faucet to ensure that I only spray the plant, but if you don't, tilt the plant to the side. You don't want to flood out the soil with water, especially if you're dealing with a houseplant that's sensitive to overwatering. After I rinse it, I wipe every leaf and the stem with paper towels. Then I put it up to a bright light. If you don't have bright lights in your room, use a flashlight or the light app on your phone. You want to make sure that there's no webbing or anything moving in that plant. After I've cleared it, I then put it in quarantine in a room separate from my other plants. I will also add a grow light to ensure that this plant has everything it needs to survive this ordeal. One thing that you need to know is that spider mites have a 3-week cycle. So even if you remove all the adults, if there's eggs present, they can hatch again. And then in 3 weeks, you're doing this all over again. I also do something that people think is crazy. At this first sighting, I will inspect the plant on a daily basis. I don't want for these bugs to catch up. For the first week, I will check to make sure there's nothing's going on. And then at the 1 week mark, after you've done the initial treatment, I will inspect the plant completely to make sure that I don't need to do another round or do I have to wipe it down, whatever. Now, after I've gone over about a month or two that I have seen no signs of infestation, I'll let the plant go back home. I've grown indoor tomatoes and roses, and this little bugger, they just killed it off. So they're not one to underestimate. Now, thrips was a little bit odd and kind of hard to recognize. If you guys have had experience with this, please comment below. But I bought a plant. I bought a plant from a local garden center and I noticed little white bugs. And, I will rinse it off and let it be for a couple of weeks, and then they will come back more and more each time. But the plant wasn't having issues. It was fine. It wasn't growing or thriving. It was just there. So what I started to do was I started treating with the same soap and water spray, and I started doing this on a weekly basis. And once I did that, I got ahead of it and they were gone. But it was definitely odd for me. And if you dealt with thrips differently, please comment below. I'd like to hear from you because this was definitely a strange experience for me. Now, my first experience with mealybugs was on hens and chicks succulents that I planned to add to my outdoor succulent garden. And I noticed they had these tiny white fuzzy spots. They almost look like pieces of cotton. And I used the magnifying app on my phone and it confirmed that it was mealybugs. So for these, I just use rubbing alcohol on cotton swab or cotton ball, and I dab each bug individually. And when you see that red stain on your cotton swab, you know that they're done with. But one thing to remember is that alcohol can damage some plants, especially if those plants are in direct sunlight or direct light. So make sure that you don't spray the alcohol onto the plant. You want to put it on a cotton ball, cotton swab, and then apply it to the bug itself. The frustrating part about this bug is that you think you're done, but then no, they'll come back. So you have to be consistent. Keep checking every week until you're sure that they're gone. This one is a little bit of a sore subject because I've been dealing with this for the past 6 months. And the first clue, it was that the pot was sticky. I wasn't sure. I didn't see anything other than these bumps along the stem of the plant. And at first I thought it was nothing. It could have been a node. It could be natural scarring. But then I tried to pick it off with my fingernail and it came off. And that's when I realized that it was scale. Now, this plant originally came from a propagation cabinet that I had, and it just outgrew it. And so I decided to look at the propagation cabinet and it seemed fine. I did see an ant and I got rid of it. And then about a week later or so, I saw another ant in the cabinet. And I figured, well, this probably dead leaves and is attracted to all this stuff. So let me clean out the cabinet. And that's when I accidentally knocked over a succulent and hundreds of ants poured out. I screamed. My husband laughed and left me and like, see you later, to deal with this trauma. But I also noticed the plant was infested with scale. And that's when I learned that ants partner up with scale. They bring the scale to the plant, the host plant, and the scale will feed off of the plant that will produce the sticky substance called honeydew, and ants feed on it. So they partner up and they infested my household. Well, thankfully, there was only a couple of plants that I couldn't save, so I let it be. But since then, I inspect stems regularly. At first, I used alcohol on the scale, but now I've been using neem oil because scale to me is tricky. I don't know they're there. It's hard to tell. And sometimes they're so small you can't see them. So yeah, I now inspect the stems on a regular basis because they're so easy to overlook until you notice that sticky residue. So, and I just recently saw something suspicious last month that I ended up treating everything with neem oil. So with this particular bug, I'm not gonna call it a clean fix until a year because it's been 6 months and I see, and it seems like they keep crawling around. So I'm not going to be moving any plants anyplace different. They're all going to stay where they're at until a year from now. Seriously. Now, the next two pests, they're not really a problematic thing. I haven't seen any plants negatively affected by them. They're just more of annoyance. First off, so fungus gnats are definitely more annoying than dangerous. They're little flies that constantly buzz around you. They slap your face. They try to go up my husband's nose. I laugh, but I'm sorry, honey. Didn't, just my sick sense of humor. And they're attracted to the moist soil in the plant. And they lay their eggs in there, and that's where their larvae live. What works well for me is flushing the soil through with the mixture of hydrogen peroxide and water. Now, when you're dealing with the house plant that is sensitive to overwatering, do not do this treatment unless the plant is due for a watering. This tends to kill the larvae in the soil. I also use yellow sticky traps to catch any adult stuff flying around. So with these two methods, you usually clear up the problem. Now this one is actually a good bug. These are tiny white insects that crawl around the soil. And yes, the first time I saw them, I kind of creeped out. But after researching them, I learned that they mostly feed on decaying organic matter and fungi. So they're basically the cleanup crew of the pot. So, and personally, I haven't researched how to get rid of them because they're not bothering my plants and my plants are just happy with them there. So sometimes, not every bug needs to be eliminated. Okay, so with that, thanks for watching. And remember, getting pests doesn't mean you failed as a plant parent. Almost everyone who keeps plants long enough will deal with them. The most important thing is that you catch them early, you quarantine your affected plants, and you stay consistent with the treatment. If you have a worst plant pest story, please comment below. I would love to hear from you and how you beat it. Thanks for watching and welcome to our madness.